Okay, so we've learned the very basics of the finger double stroke. So now we need to develop this into something that we can use as part of our drumming. So let's just do some double beats on each hand. So if we start with the right hand, and we'll just do the double stroke over and over again. So probably do 8 on each hand for now. So I'll just go through it a couple of times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's an exercise that you can do to develop the double stroke on each hand. Okay, so we've learned our first exercise with the finger double stroke. Now, so that we don't get too bored, we're going to do a new exercise. Now, this one is called Bring Out the Branston, and I learned this right back when I was about 11 years old, taught to me by Graham Houghton, and it's an exercise to develop finger double strokes. So it's actually based on the same rhythmic principles as the exercise we did last week, which was Got to Get My Hat, in that we have a group of 4 semiquaver foundation, but we're thinking in triplets. Da 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 da. But we're thinking da 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 da. So that's the exercise we're thinking. And if you remember, Got to Get Me Hat was da 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 da. So that's how it relates to Got to Get Me Hat. But it will sound completely different to that. So what we're actually doing is playing the first 2 beats of those triplets. And that's the opportunity to play a double beat on the hand and then have a break. So it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. Okay? So we'll do that on both hands first, and that will demonstrate the beginning of this exercise. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the beginning of the exercise Bring Out the Branston, but we're going to play all of that on one hand. Then comes in Bring Out the Branston. So we play the rhythm Bring Out the Branston twice, like this. Okay, so if we just recap what we have so far, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring out the Branston, bring out the Branston. Okay, and then we finish that off with a repeat of what we played in the first and second bar, but we only play it once. So, all together, it sounds like this. Okay, so I'm going to play this exercise through now twice on each hand for you to give you an idea what we're aiming for. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so whilst we're doing that, we're remembering to stay relaxed at all times, trying to use just the wrists and not the arms. Also, something that I probably wasn't doing, but trying to keep all the beats sounding at the same volume. So that's the first beat and the second, but also those open strikes. Don't be tempted to do what I tend to do, which is accent them or bang them out, because it's a different technique. Try and keep them all the same volume. Okay? Also, as we get faster, the double stroke develops, if you like, and it becomes less of two movements, the drop and snap, and more of an amalgamation of the two to form one fluid activity or motion or technique, if you like. It becomes more of one movement. It's very similar to the open strike in that really we've got two movements, down, up, but we try and make it one movement, down, up. In the same way we have drop, snap, and we're trying to make it one movement, tap. I suppose we're thinking about the wrist. And we'll talk more about this later with the exercise diggy diggy back back. But what we're thinking about here is the wrist is moving the same, whether it's the single stroke or the finger double stroke. Okay, so just a couple of things to think about. Okay, before we finish this lesson, I'd like to demonstrate one more thing, and that is the finger double stroke roll. Now, we've already encountered the double stroke roll using the wrists. Now, that can be very limiting in terms of speed. If we go too fast, we're going to build a lot of tension. So, to develop a much faster double stroke roll, we're going to use the finger double stroke technique, as we've learnt so far in this lesson. So I'll just demonstrate this to you now. So we're basically using everything we've learnt so far. The drop snap technique, which has been developed into the combination of movements to create seemingly one movement of the finger double stroke. We're going to put that together to create a roll. I'll play it through a few times, getting faster and faster, just to give you a guide as to what you're aiming for. Okay, I wasn't really happy with that. I was a little bit tense. Instead of demonstrating a nice relaxed open double stroke on the fingers, it was a bit too robotic and stiff. Instead of being nice and relaxed, it was all too mechanical. So I'm going to do that again, and hopefully this will be a lot better. wouldn't expect you to go to that tempo yet. We will be doing more roll development exercises next week, so we can use those roll exercises to develop more speed. So please don't push yourself to try and match that tempo yet. We've got a lot of work to do. But that was just a demonstration of how we can practice the double stroke roll using the finger technique, and eventually, after lots of different exercises, the kind of speeds we're going to be aiming for. Maybe I've been a little bit unfair with this lesson in that there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of technique and a lot of development required just in this lesson, which realistically isn't going to happen in 1 week. I suppose what I should have done was given you the drop and then the snap, and you should have gone away and practiced that for a week, practicing the drop on its own and also the snap on its own. And then the next week I should have asked you to practice the two together. Drop, snap, drop, snap, drop, snap. And then next week I should have asked you to put them together. And develop that double stroke. Before we moved on to the other exercises, which were bring out the Branston and then the double stroke roll. So effectively that's a minimum of 3 weeks. So I'd like you to bear that in mind. It's going to be difficult for you to develop all of that in 1 week. So be patient with yourselves and make sure that you allow yourselves enough time to develop this technique as accurately as you possibly can, because that will make your practice and your development as efficient as it possibly can be. And remember, you don't want to waste time. You don't want this to be a white elephant spending your life trying to search for something that isn't achievable, which is kind of what happened to me. Taking months to learn this technique was not really a great achievement on my part. So yeah, I'm just hoping that you can save yourselves lots of time, but be patient. You know, don't expect it to happen tomorrow. It's going to take a while, and make sure you work on the things slowly in order to develop it as quickly as possible.